to Death by Southwest bonus episode lookup list for number 22, which was the murder of Grady. Well, it was multiple murders here in Tucson. 3 different murders we looked at, and the murderer, Jason Doty. And it is Monday afternoon, so we're a little bit late on recording this one.
Why it goes out today?
Yeah, but that's fine, because
actually, I mean, if you don't edit, we're not late.
Yeah, that's true. I really don't, and that is probably very annoying for some listeners who stop listening, and then some people probably don't care and they're fine with it. We're open about that. This is unedited and less, professional in terms of there are background noises. We're at Jenna's house and Michael has Mario Kart going in the other room. And hopefully everyone had a lovely Mother's Day if you celebrate.
Oh, I like when people say that.
Yeah, I know. I said that because you said that around the holidays a lot.
Yeah.
Anytime I said like happy this or so, that you were like, if you celebrate.
Yeah.
And so we have a couple of interesting lookup list things today. But before we get into the lookup list for this episode, we actually got a message from our human GPS, Sean. And he told me a couple other things the other day. And it wasn't from this episode. It must have been inspired by the previous episode or one of the previous ones that took place in New Mexico, because he messaged me about something in New Mexico that we talked about, and then also something in Arizona here, because about Meteor Crater. And I liked it because instead of like giving me all the information, he just said, you should look this up and you should look and I was like, ooh, I'd love to know more. And he's like, yeah, look it up. So I did. So one thing that he told me is he said, well, we talked about Route 66, maybe in the Flagstaff episode, I want to say. And so he said, did you know that there is a section of Route 66 in New Mexico that if you drive on the rumble strip, it plays America the Beautiful? And truthfully,
what's a rumble
strip? Yeah. So I thought I knew what it was, but I wasn't sure. So I looked it up. And
Were you correct?
I was correct. So, and this is terrible, but when I used to make those long drives from Atlanta to Tucson and stuff, sometimes I just do it without stopping, like 30 hours.
What, it's like rumble people awake?
It is. I mean, it is. It's those ridges on the kind of right on the outside of the line.
If you start to go off.
Yes. And it's like, boop, 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 boop.
Yeah.
And
that's smart.
And so I didn't really make the connection until I watched the video of this, and I'm going to play it for you and insert it into this bonus episode. That will be the only editing I do. But so rumble strips are installed on road center lines or on the outside of the roads to reduce crossover incidents and on the shoulders to warn drivers they're going off the road. So exactly what we just said. And the musical Highway was created by the New Mexico Department of Transportation and National Geographic in 2014. It's a singing stretch of road just located outside of the town Tijeras. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but Tijeras, New Mexico, east of Albuquerque on eastbound Route 66.
How do you spell Tijeras?
Tijeras. Tijeras. So in order for the song to play correctly, you have to travel at a speed of 45 miles per hour. And so in my head, when he first told me this, I'm picturing like they've installed some electronic speakers and sensors underneath the road. Like that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. I mean,
right.
I think there'd I don't know about speakers, but like, I guess, yeah, speakers, like some sensor that when you go over,
music plays from something, right? That's not it.
Unless it's always playing.
No.
Oh, what is it?
So, and I'm going to read you this quote from the Director of Communications for New Mexico Department of Transportation. He explained the science behind it. It's really cool. There are no speakers. There's no like recorded track of music or anything. It's literally the speed that the tires hit these different ridges and the different depths of them and how they vibrate and how they've arranged them. I'll just read the quote instead of trying to like stumble through this, but it's so interesting. So Matt Kennicott said, the road works with the simplest bit of science. All of the sounds and music notes that we hear in day-to-day life are just vibrations through the air. Sorry, I had a hair in my mouth. For instance, anything that vibrates 330 times in 1 second will produce an E note, a guitar string, a tuning fork, or even a tire. To produce an E note with a car, we had to space the rumble strips such that if driven at 45 miles per hour for 1 second, the car would hit 330 strips. A bit of math tells us that this is 2.4 inches between each rumble strip. After that, it's a case of breaking down the music into exact chunks of time and applying the same technique to each space, depending on what note is needed and for how long. Which, like, just like quickly like that. Yes, okay, that makes sense to me. Do you know how hard that must have been? How time consuming? Think of all the notes that are in America the Beautiful. You'd have to figure out the timing of them, how to space the strips.
I mean, my brain went offline kind of already. Not that it's
a huge undertaking.
It's really cool. And also, I guess, depending on how long you are on the rumble strip,
right.
How long you rumble,
right.
is the length of time you'll hear the song.
Yeah.
Wow. And you said you're going to show like a YouTube?
Yeah,
I was going to look it up on YouTube, yeah.
I'm going to show you a little YouTube video right now, and I'll cut this in case people can't hear it. Well, let's see.
Also, they probably want to see it, even if it's just a road.
Yeah, I'll have to post it.
Okay, what are we doing?
Okay, just east of Albuquerque, there's a length of Route 66 that has rumble strips cut into it. That apparently, if you drive 45 miles an hour, it'll play America the Beautiful. So, here we go. Okay, set to 45 miles an hour. Hopefully I can hit this.
Oh my God. I was trying to like just be quiet, like so people could hear it. I mean, it already sounded like it, when you explained it, it sounded impressive, but that's really impressive.
Really cool, right?
Also now that rumble strip, sure, it still helps people, I'm sure, if truckers are falling asleep. But also now people are just wanting to hear that. That's
Absolutely.
awesome. So east of Albuquerque, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I don't know. I don't have the exact. Well, it's on Route 66, so I don't know. I'm sure we could find that exact strip. But like, if we go to anywhere in New Mexico, we should try and find that.
Well, that's why I'm wondering if
so cool.
I didn't know about this at all. But like, I drove to White Sands through Albuquerque
because you'd have to. Well, right, you'd have to know about it. I'm assuming there's signs and stuff because you'd have to purposefully drive outside of the line to get on it and stay on it to hear the song. But I mean. That's really cool. Interesting. Really interesting.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So thank you, Sean Thompson, for suggesting that. I thought that was a really interesting, and I will post that link in the show notes for this bonus episode so people can watch it.
Is that the GPS, human GPS, Sean Thompson?
Mm-hmm. He also mentioned to me, because we talked about meteor crater when we were in the Flagstaff episode, I believe.
Yeah.
And he said, to give you a little more useless knowledge, there's a 6-foot-tall astronaut at the bottom center of the meteor crater. And I was like, what? And so I looked it up, and I found out about that, but this was really cool. So meteor crater is the best preserved meteorite impact site on Earth. And it has led to a safer spacesuit for astronauts, because when they were training there, one of the astronaut trainees ripped his suit on a rock in the crater. And if that had occurred on the moon, it would have led to his death. So after that incident, NASA redesigned their spacesuits with thicker material that would resist tears and therefore safer for astronauts, which is pretty neat.
That's smart. And so I know that meteor crater, or a lot of places, I believe, where astronauts train, it's sure, yes, meteor crater looks like how Mars has been depicted to us in movies, or from what we can see, however we see it.
Right.
But meteor crater is a result of a meteor, but that the rock and the land is volcanic, right?
Yep.
Okay. Now, okay.
More questions? I
I
might
know.
not have the
Shut up.
answers.
No, I know. I'm just wondering. Do you know about Mars? Is there volcanic?
I don't know
Okay.
that. That's
I'm
a
not
good
going to go
look up.
on. You might
You
have
can.
to cut that.
No, that's okay. No,
Yep,
we
okay.
don't cut. We don't cut here on the bonus episodes.
Well, that's my thought or my wonderment, and I'll look it up.
yeah, I don't know. That would be a good thing to look up. I do know. I think you had, and I may have cut this out of the actual episode because I think you had started to speculate when we talked about this. Like, I wonder what would happen if anybody was standing nearby. I'm sure nobody was. Ooh, but maybe they were. So maybe I won't say that. And I can't remember if I left that in the episode or not.
Nearby what?
When the meteor hit.
Oh, yeah, because it was in like late 1800 or
No, it was during the last ice age.
oh.
That's
Which I knew at the time.
50,000 years ago.
Well, there were no humans then.
Right. So,
So that was a dumb comment then of mine.
but there were mammoths,
Yes.
mastodons, giant ground sloths.
That's right.
And they were all, it was common for them to be grazing in the plain around where this occurred. So the force of the impact would have leveled that forest around like where the crater now sits for miles, hurling all life across the plain. So obviously no one knows if that actually happened or not for sure. But over time, assuming that did happen, the landscape recovered, a lake formed at the bottom of the crater, and then sediments accumulated until it was only 550 feet deep, but it's still pretty deep. And then when the ice age ended and the climate changed and it became dry, it helped to preserve the crater, which is why it's so well preserved.
Ooh, I have a question
Today.
that I know you won't know the answer to, or I don't assume. Archaeologists have been there, I imagine, and done different digs. So, yeah, based on what you're saying, there's probably some bones or have been bones.
Sure, that's
Yeah,
probably
cool.
true. So the thing that our human GPS told us about the astronaut suit, I was like, what is it, like a real astronaut suit? Ooh, that was weird.
That was weird.
I don't know what just happened to our recording.
Well, still on.
Still recording. Was it like a real astronaut suit, a fake one,
yeah.
whatnot? There's honestly not a ton of information online about it, but I did find something that said to provide tourists with a sort of scale for how huge it is, they set up I believe it's like a wooden, astronaut suit that's 6 feet tall at the bottom of the crater so that people, when they look with binoculars and see it and stuff, they can get an idea of, oh
How
my gosh, that's
massive.
how huge it
Yeah.
is, because it might not look as big when you're standing up at the rim of it. So
Yeah, it was hard because I looked that up yesterday and I couldn't really. That's when I sent you
Yeah.
that cool poster picture, which had nothing. I mean, it had to do with meteor crater and astronauts, but it wasn't.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super neat. I would really like to go and see it. So thank you.
Can you hear Michael listening or watching Succession?
I can.
That's Succession. Succession.
It's my ringtone for my phone right now.
And do you notice I'll keep this brief, through the episodes, I think it's almost all the music. It'll be different instruments, different tempos, different everything, but it's all that
A version of
song.
that, yeah.
I think that's cool.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, anyways.
He also said, and I just want to correct Mark for your benefit, which I thought was funny. Mount Lemmon is just over 8,000 feet, but Tucson is just over 2,000 feet. So if you're looking at a 6,000 foot tall mountain, so you're looking at a 6,000 foot tall mountain. So 4,000 feet would be 2/3 of it. We must have been talking about.
Yeah, I remember Mark chimed in. It wasn't
Yeah.
when you specifically, I don't think, recorded with him. It was this episode. Yeah, he chimed in.
Yeah, I don't remember what
Because
we
you
were
had
talking about, though.
me neither, but you had asked me, do you remember what is the elevation of Tucson?
Right.
And I said 1,500, I
Right.
think, because that's where my mind always goes. And I guess it's, closer to 2,000.
Okay, so I wonder if we should take care of business first. Yeah, let's do it. Let's just jump into this.
What's business?
Well, we got an email, and I didn't ask this person if I could share their name or not, so I'm going to not share their name. But we got an email last week, and I loved the title. It was the email was titled, "So You're Not That Woke After All." And I was like, huh, okay. Well, let's find out why.
Which, based on whoever said we're too woke, that's at first my mind went to compliment.
Yeah.
But it's not.
No, it's not. I want to say just right off the bat, if this person is listening, they'll know who they are. And I told them this when I emailed them back, and I stand by it, that I appreciate every email. I mean, unless you're like sending me an email like "fuck you and your whole family and I'm going to kill you," I don't appreciate that. But other than that, whether you're giving us feedback that you love the show, you hate the show, things we can improve, I think it's all useful, and it means that either you're listening and you like it, or you're listening and you had an opinion or a feeling about something and took the time to reach out. And so I appreciate, really, I think we appreciate all of it. But so this person emailed and was very nice, said she's been listening, she or he has been listening since day one, and that they've had mixed feelings, but we've been open and honest about that we're new and we're figuring it out and whatnot. So they said they hadn't felt the need to criticize until today, and that we had mentioned circumcision as not being controversial or a big deal. And that was because I was talking about how one of the prosecutors in the trial had was trying to give an example in court of like, things aren't always what they seem. So if I'm walking in the city in New York and I see a watch store with watches in the window, and I walk in and say, "Hey, I'd like to buy a watch," and the store clerk says, "Well, we don't sell watches, we do circumcisions," that would be confusing because that's
not what they advertise.
Right. That store's not what it seems. So that's
like I think we said that already. That's
weird. It's a weird example to give. And that's really all I think that you had said to me, "Well, how do you feel about that example that this lawyer gave?" And I said,
fucking weird.
It's fucking weird. And it just, I that's all I can think of. Like, and in that moment, I think I said something to the effect of, it doesn't bother me. I mean, circumcision's not controversial. It's just a weird example.
It's not not that it's apparently not bad, but like, it's not, you were saying like, we're talking about murder, right?
Right.
So like,
yes, exactly. I was saying that
it's all relative, but still in that moment, I get that.
Yeah. And so, and truly I said that without even thinking about it. We don't have brothers. We don't have any close family members that are young children, boys. I don't have kids. Well, I don't have kids, but I don't have a ton of friends who have, baby boys as kids. And I mean, I've not really ever thought about circumcision to any kind of extent.
You know what? If I was a listener and I knew you were a heterosexual female, which you've talked about your significant other enough, I'd be all, well, you have been around dicks, both literally and figuratively.
That's true. I have.
Go on.
But it's just never been something that has been a concern, and anything for me, like that. I don't have that body point. I've never had to make that body part. I've never had to make that decision for somebody, whoever I'm with that has a penis, like, that's their choice.
Or not is.
Well, that's exactly it.
That's a part of why I believe it's controversial.
It's exactly right. So that is a long intro to say that this person reached out to say that they were upset about this, that circumcision is controversial and it is a big deal. And they suggested that we do some research on the topic and kind of try to think objectively about it, and provided a few links for us.
Oh, did you go to the links?
I didn't see the links. I did go to the links. I wrote this person back. I thanked them and I told them that we were going to talk about this and that I will absolutely educate myself. And I did. And truthfully, it was way more than I've ever hoped to learn about circumcision. But the basis for it is what I expected it to be in terms of, I saw this email and I thought, okay, well, it's got to be controversial because a brand newborn baby can't say, "Yes, please cut off part of my penis."
Right. They can't give consent is a piece, to put it very generally, I believe.
Yes.
I think.
Right. It's the parent deciding for a child who can't decide if they actually want that done to their body or not.
Right.
And then the very little else that I thought I knew about it was that, there are benefits and drawbacks to both, to being circumcised, to not being circumcised. That
What are the drawbacks, or what did you think? And maybe that's hard to say now if you know more. What did you think were the drawbacks to being circumcised besides lack of consent for that baby?
Yeah, that it can be very painful. I mean, a lot of these websites had tons of statistics saying that 1 in 4 men, even though most will not admit it, like can have like some type of deep buried memory of that pain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were going to go there.
Yeah.
Okay, but on the surface, and again, I don't know if you can pull this apart for yourself because you've already researched a bit, but like before you looked it up, what were your thoughts of these are the drawbacks to being
I know
circumcised
that
besides it's not their choice?
It's not their choice. That's probably, I'd assume, the biggest, but also that I did know that like it becomes less sensitive. Like keeping your foreskin there's more nerve endings. It feels better. It's more naturally lubricated. It feels better for the man supposedly, and oftentimes for their partner.
I wonder why for the partner though.
There's more friction and girth and and then I also knew that also it can be not being circumcised can bring up a whole nother set of issues that it can cause, more infections, more UTIs. I found
more likely to get an STI, a UTI if you're not
circumcised, because it's a catch-all for bacteria if you're not properly cleaning it.
Right. That's what I would say, because you said if you're not circumcised, sure, compared to circumcision, but in my mind, and again, I'm going to say something next. To me, it can lead to more STIs or UTIs if you're not properly cleaning,
taking care of it. Yeah.
For your body part.
Yeah.
Also, I want to say that I don't have a penis.
Right.
So I feel weird. Not weird, but like if I
it's out of our comfort zone.
Well, not even. I'm okay with that. If I flip the script and like if there was like an equivalent and not like.
Yes, I know.
You know what I'm trying to say.
Yes,
like
an equivalent to male circumcision, but not the horrific things that happen to women in other parts of the world.
Right. Like where it's a cultural thing or just as in babies, like Jew babies. I'm Jewish. I can say that.
Right.
Like if they're brisk.
Right.
Yeah.
So like for a baby Jewish boy, it's a bris. That's circumcision.
Yeah.
If it's something similar to a woman was being like, oh, we're going to, remove the tip of their nipple. I don't know.
Right.
Something
That's
like
why
that.
I feel a little bit odd. Like,
well, it's the same thing that we've talked about, not on this podcast, I don't believe, because we generally try to leave politics out of it, but that I don't want a man, I don't want anybody making decisions for me about my body. I certainly don't want somebody of the opposite sex who doesn't have to deal with a female body day to day making decisions about that. That's as much as I'm going to say about it, because I do feel strongly about not getting too political on here.
well, me too. And also, I know this is political. It's also just personal.
Yeah.
I guess. But yeah, I was telling Michael before you got over here that I think she's going to ask about circumcision. And I was like, okay, well, should I look it up? Blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, also, I feel uncomfortable for whatever I just said, like kind of odd talking about something of a body part I don't have. And also my first thought was, not why are we talking about this, but it feels odd to talk about this also because a slew of my rights are either being taken away, have been taken away, my female bodily rights.
Yeah,
so one doesn't make the other better. It's just
odd.
Yeah,
I totally agree with that. Yes, absolutely. That and truthfully, to this person who sent us this email, I told them, we're going to talk about this. I hope we talk about it in a way that doesn't upset you or offend you like the last thing. Like the last time that we talked about it unintentionally. But at the same time, Yeah, I agree. It's certainly an important topic to lots of people. And if I, had a child that was a boy, it would probably be a very important topic to me. I'm not saying it's not important. It's just something that's a little bit out of my realm. However, there are just two more things I'm going to say on this. And then
I
will
500 more.
I know. And then I will include the links for anyone who also wants to educate themselves, because this person who wrote in very clearly is against circumcision, and I can understand why entirely after researching more about it. I also don't want to push any viewpoint on this podcast. So I'd like to share both sides and let people make up their own minds. But I had never really read an account of like what happens during a circumcision. Like I know what the end result is.
Sure.
I didn't know how the procedure went. And I read this, and this was as much as I looked into it, because it's... So circumcision is usually performed before your baby goes home from the hospital. Like all surgery, circumcision is painful. To relieve pain, anesthetic is given to numb the area. About 1 hour before the procedure, a numbing cream is placed on the baby's penis. Right before the procedure, the doctor injects a local anesthetic at the base of the penis. The penis and foreskin are cleaned, a clamp is attached to the penis, and the foreskin is removed with a scalpel.
Mm-hmm. What do you think it was removed with?
I don't know. I honestly, that's how little I've thought about it, which maybe sounds ignorant. I've just never had a reason to think about it, and I haven't.
You can't think, not anyone can think about all the things.
Yeah,
so
and I just, it does seem very terrible.
Yeah, I knew it was a scalp, or I think I knew that. Yeah, a sharp, scalpel should be sharp.
And then this Dr. Andrew Friedman at Gurin Children's Pediatric. He's
in Israel?
Urologist, I don't know.
Gurin.
He says Guerin.
Yeah.
He says there's no right or wrong answer. There are some minimal benefits and some minimal risks. There's not enough benefit to say that you must do it, and there's not enough risk to say that you can never do it. And I thought that's like, yeah, exactly. So, I'll include the links, and I do think that it's an interesting topic that we've probably talked about enough for the moment.
Well, I've got something to say.
What?
It's not controversial, I promise. I'm always sweet. And I just, I've been thinking about it. And I tried to type in, okay, tell me about the controversy of, which I have a brain, but I wanted to hear what, medical professionals are saying. And it was, like you said, so many statistics and this and that. Something that stuck out to me is, I guess, an argument against it, or why some people, a part of why they feel like, no, this isn't a good thing or a helpful thing, is it goes against, so doctors are under the Hippocratic Oath. Doctors, mental health professionals, not everyone. We all should be.
Health professionals.
Do no harm, right? Okay, so I wrote something down. I need to look at it, because you're looking at me very, and I don't. Okay, so do no harm and respect that autonomy. And so a lot of people say there's no medical indication to do it. And then, of course, the child can't give the consent. Then what you said, yes, some research and or medical professionals say it helps reduce the likelihood of STI, UTI, penile cancer. And then this was interesting, which I didn't look into, but I want to, can also potentially, according to this thing I read, cervical cancer in the male's sexual partner, which I think to me means they're less likely to get a UTI/STI/ whatever, and thus less likely to pass
transmit it. Yeah.
Pass it on.
Yes, thank you for the hand motions.
Yep. So I guess we really said all of that, but those were the things that came to mind, like the Hippocratic Oath and the STI, UTIs.
I think it's a very personal decision. Unfortunately, that's also the controversy of it. It's probably a personal decision for the baby that they can't make, so then it becomes a personal decision for the parents, and that's.
I'm trying to think, and I'm going to pause this, but I'm going to say it out loud. are there other, of course, as a baby, your parents make plenty of
Getting
personal
your
decisions.
ears pierced.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think, what are the personal decisions that affect your physical body? We don't have to go into it, but keep that in mind. Also, I'm thinking about what Michael said the other day. Do you remember? About how in, thousands of years ago when we had to run and forage.
I tried to find that today online.
I don't think he found it. You
Continue.
right? Like
yeah.
he
No,
said
say
like
it.
however
The
long
foreskin.
ago. Yeah, we had to run, or not we,
Men
had to forage in the forest and
run.
get food and run, and the foreskin was a protective layer, literally.
Sheath for their yeah. That makes sense to me. I couldn't find that. I didn't look that deeply into that actually, but I remembered that today, and I couldn't remember if him or Mark said it, and I was like, it makes sense.
It does make sense. I don't know if
I mean,
he
they
might
didn't have
just
like
literally
boxers
made
and
that up,
jeans
but-
to protect their penis before,
Right.
and also nobody's running through the woods. Not most people are not running through the woods with their genitals out today.
Well, right. That's why it's not necessary.
That's true. So
Doesn't mean it's right.
I don't know. I'd be interested to hear if any listeners have strong opinions on this. And to our listener who wrote in, again, thank you. And hopefully we, at least continued the conversation.
Totally. Our minds are
Thinking about it now. Yeah. I definitely
becoming
thought
more
about
educated.
it. Exactly. And so now I'm going to educate you on something else.
Oh, no.
From the episode. We talked about that the murderer, Jason Doty, was in trouble for or found with, I can't remember exactly, excuse me, I'm sorry, embalming fluid. And you had asked at the time, like, oh, does that, like, why? And I'd said that, you get high from it or it can cause a high. And then we referenced 6 Feet Under when Claire's hot boyfriend, like, steals embalming fluid from the Fishers, funeral home.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that. Maybe I said this. I didn't put that together. Like, I must have missed that. Like, I knew he was getting high. I knew all the things, but I didn't put it together.
Yeah. So ingesting or smoking embalming fluid is highly dangerous and potentially lethal. But it is common that people use it to get high. So embalming fluid is a formaldehyde-based toxin. Basically, it's used for the preservation of deceased bodies. It's not intended for human consumption or recreational use, but the misuse of it for its psychoactive effects is, there's a bunch of street names for it. It's called wet, like getting wet, or fry is what they call when you like roll a joint or cigarettes and dip it
yeah,
in the embalming fluid. And generally, it's not just embalming fluid. Usually people will combine PCP with embalming fluid and either lace it in drugs or dip, marijuana or cigarettes in it. So embalming fluid is a compound of formaldehyde, methanol, ethanol, and other solvents, and it reportedly can produce a hallucinogenic effect. It also can cause a cigarette or a joint to burn more slowly, which would result in a longer high. Formaldehyde causes damage to the central nervous system, respiratory system, and basically all of your organs. It can result in seizures, coma, or death.
And people, I looked it up, everything you said, and then people who have smoked embalming fluid have been known to become angry and aggressive, putting everyone around them at risk.
Yes.
Yeah, I imagine any of those kind of hard drugs.
I
can
found
make you
in one
aggressive.
article, it had a paragraph where it just kind of like ran down a couple of, in the past 20 years, incidents. So in the Philadelphia suburb of Morrisville, a 14-year-old boy fatally stabbed a 33-year-old neighbor more than 70 times in the year 2000 after smoking for embalming fluid dipped joint that he purchased in New Jersey. He said he did it because he wanted to quiet the voices in his head, which it clearly didn't help do that. Now he was serving a 7-year sentence in a juvenile facility in Connecticut. This, Fry or Illy or Wet or all the street names that first appeared in 95. and it was cited as a factor in at least 4 deaths. In Oklahoma, 3 young girls reported that they were sexually assaulted after the whole entire group smoked fry. Just, tons of incidents of this, but there's no national statistics on this because it's so it's mixed with different things. It's used in different ways, but generally a lot of experts say that there's anecdotal evidence to suggest that this fry or wet or whatever has spread from poor minority inner city communities to affluent wet suburban neighborhoods and college campuses. It pops up in isolated incidents and then seems to spread by word of mouth and by by ease of access, because I don't think it's actually that easy to get, but
it's easier than paying a lot of money for whatever people pay.
Yeah, you got to break into, figure out how to get into, or find somebody who knows somebody who works at a, and also you can buy anything online. I'm guessing you can find embalming fluid somewhere.
Or whatever you said
but
whatever you just said the ingredients were, I wonder,
could you find those and combine them? Sure. Yeah.
It's kind of also reminds me, not the same, but of huffing.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Maybe it's hard to have statistics on that because people huff different things.
Right. Yeah, it's not like how many deaths from just straight cocaine happened this year.
Right.
It's a little bit different. But so don't do that.
Stop doing that if you're doing it.
Ugh,
Embalming fluid, wow. Mm-hmm. I wonder how, and again, I understand there's not a lot of hard and fast statistics or research, but it's hard to get to a conclusive spot of I'm wondering how addictive is it?
I'm guessing probably not, because I think it's mostly hallucinogenic. So, and again, I'm speculating here, but mushrooms aren't terribly addictive. It's more of a.
It's not the compounds in mushrooms I believe that could really contribute to someone being addicted. I think it's if they like the way they feel on it.
Yeah, that's totally true too.
Same with anything, I guess.
Yep, that's true too. Okay. Is it raining?
Mm-mm.
Damn it. So, I feel like we might not do all of the things that I have, because I feel like I'm going to do 1 or 2 more.
That's fine.
So, we talked about, or we were wondering, why did Jason Doty get charged with first-degree murder for killing his friend who died in that car accident? When he ran a stop sign, police tried to pull him over. He fled away and ended up flipping his car, and the passenger died.
Well, now that you're saying it again out loud, and I'm just going to say this real quick. I don't know if it's right.
Yeah.
But because he was already breaking the law, evading he had already broken the law, maybe that's a contributing factor.
You said that on the episode too.
Oh, damn it.
which I didn't know if that was true or not.
Okay.
So basically what I found is kind of there's a whole bunch of different reasons that this could happen. And at the end of the day, it's based on the location, the jurisdiction,
the county, the
county,
city, the state.
there's so many things like that play into it. But basically, it's first-degree murder typically requires the prosecution to prove premeditation, intent to kill, and malice aforethought. So those are all the same thing, I believe. Just basically, you're thinking about it beforehand. So some possible reasons why a driver could be charged with first-degree murder after a fatal car crash is pre-existing intent. If the prosecution can demonstrate that the driver had planned to cause harm or death to the passenger before the crash. If there is evidence that the driver planned and carried out this with the intention of killing the passenger. I'm saying the same thing over and over. And the other reason, which I think this is probably more likely, is extreme recklessness. In some jurisdictions, extreme recklessness or depraved heart murder can be charged when a person acts with a conscious disregard for human life and their actions result in someone's death. If the driver's conduct leading up to the crash meets the criteria for extreme recklessness, it could result in a first-degree murder charge, which seems like that's, he ran a stop sign and then like went nuts fleeing police. So that seems reckless.
And again, I can't recall because we do a lot of these episodes. When he was fleeing or ran the stop sign, fled, whatever, the police, was he also running because he had already...
Yes, he didn't know if that's why he didn't know why they were chasing him.
Right, but he had already committed the murder.
He had
one of them
committed the murders. He had broken into the houses. Yeah,
there
he had committed a bunch of things.
Then that even more so.
Right, exactly. Okay. So the circumstances of the case, including the driver's intent, state of mind, and any prior history, would also be considered when determining the appropriate charges. So I think like
prior history,
that's he had murdered people. He had tons of criminal history prior to this. And all they were technically pulling him over for was running a stop sign. Because that's, whether he knew that or not, that's all that initially, that's why they turned on their sirens and went after him. They obviously had an inkling of that he might be involved in these other things.
Sure, but either which way, even if he was Joe Schmo,
right,
and he ran the stop sign, I imagine they still would have pulled him over. Because he
absolutely
broke the traffic law. Yep.
Yes. And so then I think this in the episode spurred us into asking manslaughter versus first degree murder, which I kind of had an idea about, but just to,
refresh
or anybody who doesn't know, what do you think?
Well, kind of what you just said. First, manslaughter could be, I kill someone in a car accident where I have a DUI, where there's no premeditation. So first degree murder is there's some sort of thought or plan or plan.
That's really the basis. Manslaughter refers to the unlawful killing of another person without premeditation or thinking about it ahead of time. Some level of culpable negligence, recklessness, or the absence of intention to cause death. So voluntary manslaughter is when a person intentionally causes the death of another in the heat of the moment. Like you believe you need to defend yourself, self-defense, or somebody, it involves an intentional act, but it's not premeditation. Right.
Yeah.
So that's voluntary manslaughter. Involuntary manslaughter is typically unintentional and occurs as a result of negligent or reckless behavior. It may involve actions that are inherently dangerous or disregard the safety of others. So I'm
drinking and driving.
Speeding. That's true. Those are probably better examples. I was going to say I ask you to go wakeboarding when you're drunk and I'm drunk. I don't know.
Well, okay, but that would also be I don't know. But if you say, hey, let's have some beers and then let's go wakeboarding, and then I happen to die, I'm a full grown adult who has, my own decision making.
So I get drunk and put you on the back of my motorcycle and drive around. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So then first degree murder is a more severe charge, requires a higher level of intent and premeditation. It involves the intentional killing of another person with malice, planning beforehand. Yep. First degree murder often requires proof of planning, premeditation, and a specific intent to kill. The defendant's actions must demonstrate a willful and deliberate decision to take another person's life, usually without any mitigating factors like no self-defense or you weren't provoked.
Right. It wasn't in the moment, someone broke into my home.
Right.
I shoot them.
Right. That's manslaughter.
Yeah.
Most likely.
Right. Of course. But there's all the nuances.
Right. Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Most likely, but it seems depending on the county and the jurisdiction and your lawyer and the police, there's so many things in the legal system that can just totally change things. And then the last one that I just wanted to touch on was, we talked about how Grady Towers was part of Mensa and part of the 999 Society. And I had I knew what Mensa was, but just to kind of give a little more context, Mensa is an international organization that aims to identify and foster human intelligence for the benefit of humanity. It is open to individuals who score within the top 2% of the general population on standardized IQ tests. It's basically a platform for very, very smart people to connect, exchange ideas, and participate in various intellectual activities. Founded in 1946, there are chapters in more than 100 countries worldwide. And the 999 Society is an international high IQ society for adults whose score on a standardized test demonstrates an IQ at or above the 99.9th percentile.
That's cool. I wonder if that is even more exclusive than the 2% Mensa.
I kind of think it sounds like it might be. The society recognizes scores from over 20 different tests of adult intelligence. It was founded in 1978, is a nonprofit incorporated in Virginia. And as of September 2022, it has a member base of over 1,900 adults in 50 countries. That's not that many. 1,900?
That's not many at all, yeah.
No. And they also have a bi-monthly journal, the Vidya, which has articles, poetry, and other creative content from members. And that's what I think Grady contributed to. Because remember I said he wrote like a lot of articles and things like that. And this goes, there's a lot more information on this. It goes pretty deep and wide. And I don't think it's anything that I'll be a part of, but fascinating.
Maybe we could find, I'm going to look this up, not right now. Well, I'm trying right now, but I'm going to talk instead. Maybe putting a link to one or two of the adult IQ tests.
That's a good idea. That's a great idea.
See, I should be a part of Mensa.
Yeah. Look at you. So smart. Yeah. I don't know if I've ever taken an IQ test. I guess I'd be interested to, or
I mean,
I don't want to know.
I've taken an IQ online and it's like I don't know how legitimate it is.
Right.
You know?
Right. That's fair. I'd be interested to see. Well, if anybody is listening and is part of Mensa or 999 and you have any cool things to add to this, we'd love to hear from you. Let us know. And in the meantime, so let me just recap. I'm going to put links to that Singing Highway and some of the circumcision stuff. And maybe one of these Mensa things in our show notes for this episode. Okay, I just needed to recap that for myself so that I can do that because we're going to post this very quickly here. And somebody had mentioned on our Patreon, and I wanted to say thank you to you. You'll know who you are, that it looks like we left Cavalry, which we have. I'm not permitted to say a whole bunch more than that, but we have now gone independent. And so she was reminding me she said, it seems like you've left Cavalry, but you still have the logo on your artwork. So I'm working on getting that removed, and we have left Cavalry and are now fully an independent podcast. So I don't know what the point of saying that was. I guess I just wanted to
acknowledge that.
Just acknowledge that and acknowledge that listener. Yeah. Thank you. And I think that's it. I think we're going to wrap it up. We had a few more things, but I think that people can only handle so much of our banter, and it is 5:30, so I'm definitely not editing this. Although I might put in that YouTube video of the Singing Highway unless the microphone captured it well. So, you have anything else?
No, I don't think so. I think it's like 97 degrees out right now. So,
so there's that.
Yay.
It's nice and hot here. Yeah. I don't think I have anything else either. So we will sign off, and we will be back with another episode and another lookup list later this week and next week.
Well, forever and ever.
Yeah, forever and ever. And thanks for listening. Love you guys.
Hug your loved ones.
And we'll talk to you guys soon.
Night, night.
Bye.